Alright, so I recorded like a 20-minute interview about the Transhumanize and Uncanny Valley EP a while back that I was originally including on the custom USBs that I had made, but I figure why not just kind of release it as a vlog episode for you guys to check out, in the meantime while I try to get some more video content recorded for future episodes and whatnot. So I think there's some good stuff in here you might enjoy, so check it out. The story behind the EP, this might get pretty deep. So it's sort of the dichotomy between man becoming more like machine and machine becoming more like man. Transhumanize, man becoming more like machine, and Uncanny Valley, machine becoming more like man. So Uncanny Valley is essentially the concept of the disparity between, how humans display emotion and how like a human-like android or robot, made to look like a human might portray emotion. So it's almost like creepy or eerie, like how a robot would portray emotion compared to a human. So they call that gap the Uncanny Valley, and eventually that gap is going to close, or become smaller and smaller, to a point where, if you're familiar with the HBO series Westworld, where like you can't even tell the difference between what's human and what's not, which is a pretty crazy concept, but it's not really that far-fetched, when you think 10, 20, 30 years or so into the future. So on the flip side of that, transhumanize, basically transhumanize is to transcend human biology. We're already kind of seeing this on a small scale where, there's like brain-machine interfaces that somebody who's lost a limb might be able to control, like a prosthetic limb or something. And it started out where, it's just like basic movements, like they could do a couple things with their arms or hands with these prostheses, but it's getting to a point where individual fingers and joints can really do specific things, and that's only going to improve over time. But yeah, I think eventually, people are going to integrate computers into their bodies, like as time goes on. Elon Musk is working on a project called Neuralink. I don't know if it's seen a whole lot of press or where it stands right now. I read about it maybe a year ago, but he talks about how artificial intelligence, this explosion of artificial intelligence is sort of inevitable, and it's going to get to a point where it reaches like human level intelligence, and it's just going to like shoot off to a point that we can't even really comprehend as humans. If you think about like the conversation we're having right now and how an ant might perceive that, like they can't even comprehend it. So it could get to a point where AI takes off to a point where we're the ant and it's us, kind of scary stuff, I guess, potentially. But so the whole thing with Neuralink is like, they want to start by creating these like BMIs, brain-machine interfaces, that somebody with maybe a debilitating disease might have, where it can restore some function in the brain or whatever, but to eventually create a maybe non-invasive, like mass market product that people can use to basically like think on a level of what a computer would, almost like a new sense. It's pretty crazy to think about, but there's a great blog called waitbutwhy.com by Tim Urban, and stumbled across it a couple years ago. He does these really long form blog posts that dive into these like crazy topics of the future and stuff like this. Highly recommend you check it out if it sounds like it might be up your alley. But so that's kind of where the idea came from. All this stuff, little out there. People probably don't think about this stuff too much on a regular basis, and I don't really think about it all that much on a regular basis, but I definitely think about it and keep it in mind. So yeah, maybe to kind of start some conversations, get people diving deeper into topics like these. I even kind of ingrained it into the music where, there's organic and synthetic elements kind of playing hand in hand. So Transhumanize has this pretty prominent bass guitar, but you also have synths and drums and everything. So, organic and synthetic kind of working together. And the same with Uncanny Valley, where, there's a piano, instead of a bass guitar, and synths and, drums and all that stuff. So just kind of adding that extra little hidden layer, hidden meaning into the songs. So I thought it was kind of neat. So inspiration. The whole like visual aesthetic with like the neon, like pinkish, purplish colors and stuff. All that's kind of like a nod to like Blade Runner and the whole like cyberpunk aesthetic. Huge fan of the new Blade Runner 2049 movie. I saw that in the theaters by myself when it came out, and I just got sucked into that world that they created. The cinematography, the soundtrack, the story and visuals, everything is just, they knocked it out of the park. If you have not seen that movie and you're into like sci-fi and stuff, I can't recommend it enough. So yeah, definitely that, like the whole cyberpunk thing. I don't really play video games too much these days, still a little bit here and there, but I love the Deus Ex, the new Deus Ex games, Human Revolution and Mankind Divided. Definitely like overarching themes of like, the whole transhumanism thing and the cyberpunk stuff, dystopian vibes, people modifying themselves with technology and stuff like that. Pretty crazy stuff. It was super cool games, I thought. So all that. There's a great book by Kevin Kelly. It's called The Inevitable. Subtitles like Understanding the 12 Technologies That Will Shape Our Future, or something like that. Just look up Kevin Kelly. It's one of his more recent books. But yeah, he dives into how like 3D printing, nanotechnology, biotech, artificial intelligence, all these different fields are, coming together to create a pretty crazy future when you think about it. VR, AR, all that type of stuff. Super interesting book. Highly recommend that as well. So yeah, just I dive into all this like sort of philosophical science stuff in my downtime sometimes. So I just think it's super interesting, cool stuff. So